Hey everyone, Rich Bennett here. I'm excited to tell you about something we're doing for National Recovery Month. Here at Conversations with Rich Bennett, we're holding a special event called the Podathon for Recovery, 12 Days of Hope. For 12 consecutive days, we'll release a new episode dedicated to powerful conversations about addiction, recovery, and hope. And we're doing this to raise vital funds for an incredible nonprofit, Rage Against Addiction. They are on the front lines providing sober living homes, recovery coaching, and essential support to families. We believe recovery is a journey worth celebrating, and your support can make a tangible difference. Every donation, no matter the size, goes directly to them, helping to save lives and provide a second chance. So please join our mission. You can start donating right now. Simply go to conversationswithrichbennett.com and you'll see the donation thing right there so you can donate and help these women in recovery. Welcome to a special episode of Conversations with Rich Bennett. This is a part of our Podathon for Recovery, 12 Days of Hope, our mission to raise money for Rage Against Addiction. My co-host Wendy Beck and I will be sharing powerful stories of addiction, recovery, and resilience to help break the stigma and show that hope is always possible. Your support helps Rage Against Addiction provide life-changing resources, and you can donate right now by visiting our GoFundMe link in the show notes. We are so grateful you've joined us on this important journey. Now let's get into today's conversation.
Hi, it's Wendy, and I'm here with Rich, and we have a special guest that's going to tell us her recovery story for September's National Recovery Month. Hi, Karen. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm fine. We've had Karen on our
She's been on several times.
couple times.
Yeah, once or twice.
She's a tried and true guest. She's always here to share with us and be a part of the movement that we're doing, especially for National Recovery Month.
It's important.
Do you want to talk a little bit about your recovery?
Well, my journey started probably, I guess it's been about 21 years now that it started, that I am what you would call a, quote, not typical addict.
Okay.
And by what I mean, and that is not a judgment at all on my part.
Is this what you call yourself, or is this?
No, that's what, the way society looks at who an addict is, what an addict is. 21 years ago, I didn't, quote, fit the mold.
Okay.
I wasn't homeless. I wasn't shooting drugs. I wasn't prostituting myself. I was a stay-at-home mom with 2 kids with the white picket fence.
Okay.
My life looked absolutely perfect. I was a Girl Scout leader, the whole, June Cleaver type thing.
So what was your drug of choice at that time?
Pain pills.
Oh.
I had been in a car accident when I was 24, and I'd hurt my neck, and they couldn't fix it at the time. It was soft tissue damage, they thought. So they were treating it with opioids. Back then, they not only didn't really realize how addictive they were, all the pharmaceutical companies were pushing them.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So it was the point of, okay, we can't fix her neck. She's too young to do surgery. Let's give her some Percocet. And the first time, and I still remember the first time I ever took one, I felt like I had drank a 6-pack of beer. It wasn't like people get knocked out or get loopy or tired or whatever. It gave me energy. So that was kind of like the first red flag.
You were drunk off of it.
Kind of,
Okay.
but without the hangover.
Okay.
And it gave me energy. It didn't knock me out. It gave me energy.
Huh.
And that, not knowing at the time, that should have been a real big red flag. So I took those for years with no problem. And if I felt like I was taking too many, I put them away and cut back and so forth. It took probably 4 or 5 years for them to really figure out what was going on with my neck.
So it was helping your neck. It was helping with the pain.
It definitely was helping with the pain.
It didn't fix the neck.
It didn't fix the neck,
Right.
But they had no idea what was wrong in order to fix it. And they would it made me be able to function because it was to the point I used to get these horrible headaches from the muscles in my neck being so tense.
And how old were you when this happened?
25.
25. And they said you were too young for surgery?
This was 21 years ago.
Or do you think that was an excuse because they didn't know what was actually wrong?
I think it was a combination because back then the technology was not what it is now.
Right.
And being able to like look through MRIs and nuclear tests and all that kind of stuff, they honestly could not figure out what was wrong.
So the painkillers were the Band-Aid.
They were
at
the
the
Band-Aid.
time.
Exactly, yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly. So I was, like I said, I was taking them just kind of as needed type thing. And then over time, I realized one of the things that hit was that my mom was typical. My mom was coming out to visit and I had to have the house clean. So it's like, oh, well, I'm really tired. So let me take a Percocet. That was the first time I used it
To wake you up.
I used it for other than its medicinal purposes.
Okay.
Wow.
But that was a couple years in,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah,
Okay.
It was a couple years in. And then, so that was, and I remember doing that. It's like, yeah, this probably is not a good idea. And that kind of like started it. And then it went from there. This was all right before 9/11.
And you're still functioning. You're
Oh.
a mom, your kids are good, you're
Mhm.
paying your bills, your relationship's good, all of that.
Yeah, nobody had a clue. So then 9/11 hit, and it was, as it affected everyone. And it really affected me, even though I didn't know and really know anyone there. But like the last podcast we did, I'm an empath. So I was picking up stuff and I didn't know I was an empath at the
Oh,
time.
okay.
So I was picking up all these feelings and emotions from everybody. And this loss of control. At the same time that's going on, I don't know if you remember, there was an incident, there was the DC sniper.
Yep. I remember
Same
that
exact
well.
time. My husband and my best friend were both working down in that area while that's going on. My husband was in the same parking lot where a woman got shot. He had been there like 4 hours earlier.
Yeah, I remember that. That was
So,
terrible.
Basically, it
I was
was
down that way that time too.
it was a loss of control.
With the pills at that
No,
point.
with life.
Okay.
The pills helped me feel like I had a sense of control.
Because it was the only thing you could control.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And what happened was I could take the pill and not be so anxious and not be so worried about what might or might not happen because I had no control over whether or not anybody would die. What if something would happen to my kids? I had no control over any of that. And it's interesting from working the program, because I am in a 12-step program. Working the program, I've seen that one of my biggest character defects is needing control, which stems back to childhood and all that. But
Right.
so at the time it was, if I took the pills, I wasn't anxious.
Now, were you dependent on them if you stopped taking them, or was the amount increasing at
The
that
amount
point?
increased. That's where it started. It very probably within 6 months to a year got to the point where I was doctor shopping. I used to say back
What?
doctor shopping.
Yes. It's very,
Oh,
very
okay.
common. Yeah.
I always used to say back when I first started coming around that I was an Oprah Winfrey episode.
What does that mean?
What I mean is, and I know, God, nobody's going to understand this because
I mean, I know Oprah. I mean, obviously.
But she used to have a talk show where she
Yes.
used to have people on that would talk about their lives
Mhm.
and how screwed up they were, but that you would never know it.
Okay.
So, here I am, a mom, Girl Scout leader, kids go to private school, everything on the outside looked perfect, loving relationship with my husband, et cetera, et cetera.
Can I ask if he ever questioned why you were using these, or he just assumed it was for your neck and didn't really?
He assumed they were for my neck,
Uh-huh.
and he would slowly notice it, but he is somewhat of an enabler. God, love him, but I had excuses.
Right.
I mean, I really did have an injury that I needed them for. Did I need to take as many as I took a day? No.
Right.
So it finally, at the end, it got to the point where I was doctor shopping, meaning I was going to different doctors. There was some up in Delaware where I could go, walk in, be seen, get a bunch of them, leave. I was getting them off the internet because I had MRIs that showed a problem. So there were certain companies that existed
Yeah.
At that time,
at
probably
that time.
not
Yeah.
now.
Well, that's
right?
one of the reasons I got clean, is because it got more and more difficult to do that. Because it used to be you could call them up, you had a consultation, quote, over the phone, send them I think it was actually a fax back then, a copy of your medical records, and they would just write you a script
Wow.
for a lot more money than what it would cost
Right.
to go to a doctor. But so with my addiction, not only was I using a ridiculous amount of Percocet, I was going into debt. My credit cards were maxed. And I was literally chasing down the UPS guy when I would run out of drugs because I knew they were on the truck.
Wow.
I would literally, God, I haven't thought about this forever.
Aw.
I would literally, no, it's good to remember. I knew there was a shipment coming, and if I ran out, I didn't want to be sick.
So you knew you were getting sick at this point, and you knew
Oh,
that was the reason,
mhm.
obviously.
Oh yeah, I was going to withdraw. If I ran out, I was going to withdraw. I was taking, back then, I think 10 milligram was the highest you could get. And I was probably taking 15 to 20 a day.
Oh my. Wow.
And quote,
15
functioning
to 20 milligrams or 15 to 20
Pills.
pills? Holy
Pills.
shit.
a day.
So yeah, you would definitely start to feel the effects of
Damn.
that withdrawal
Immediately.
for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And I was quote, functioning.
Wow.
At least as far as what I ever thought.
With a,
I thought I
secret
was
life.
functioning. Yeah.
With
Oh,
the
yeah.
secret life. Yeah.
I was still taking care. Well, no, and I'm lying. would say I'm taking care of my kids, but I wasn't, because my daughter was what, 3 at the time, maybe. So my son was 8. I'd hide up in my room. She'd need something. He'd go upstairs. She needs a drink or whatever. I said, "Can you get it for her? She wants something to eat. Can you get it for her?" I would hide in my room.
Mm.
So I was physically there, but mentally I
You were
wasn't.
isolating
I was an absentee mom, which breaks my heart.
Right. I'm sorry. Yeah.
So, but I was fortunate in that it didn't last super long. It was just a year or two, maybe 2 years, I guess, that to that extent.
Right.
And a couple times I tried to stop by myself. I know there's a problem. I'm just not going to do it, but with no outside help.
Well, and at the time, correct me if I'm wrong, that people weren't talking about this.
Not at all.
I mean, you were hiding it, but it was also not something that there was no recovery movement. There was no news about it. And again, you're not getting it off the street. You're thinking that you're getting it from doctors and pharmacies online and that type of thing. So,
it's legitimate.
hey, yeah.
I have a legitimate thing or injury, and I'm going to a doctor to get it. Even though it wasn't my regular doctor.
Right,
I'm
you're
going to
chasing
Delaware,
it,
although I
right.
was getting it from my regular doctor as well.
Right.
And what
And he
happened-
had no idea that you were doing all
Of
the
course
other-
not. Of course not.
Wow.
And I look like you would never know, like the little old lady walking down the street with, I wasn't old then, but you would walking down the street, you'd have no clue. When people found out, like, my daughter's friends and
Okay,
other
so how
moms.
did they find out? Like, what got to that? What took you to that point of people
Well, they didn't
finding
even know
out?
till I told them after I got clean.
Okay.
No one knew.
Even your husband.
He knew. He was
So
like,
how did you get clean without anyone knowing? Like, what was the process of that?
I was tired of hiding. I was tired of trying to hide the credit card bills from him. I
Wow.
paid all the bills, so he never knew. So I would hide the credit card bills, which were in the thousands.
Wow.
Then chasing down the UPS guy if I needed my medicine and that at the time that's what I thought it was. And it would be like on a weekend, I'd have it delivered to my neighbor's house so he wouldn't see it come because he knew what was in those boxes. He caught me a couple times. And why are you getting it? Questioned it. And I'd have my neighbor get it, or God forbid it snowed and the UPS guy couldn't come
Oh, shit.
because then I would be sick. And it's a cliche, but I got sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Right.
And I said, I need help. I can't do this. I tried a couple times on my own and I kept going back to it. And I finally said, I can't do this.
It's hard to get
There's a
cold
problem.
turkey.
Well, yeah.
And it's not safe either.
Well, it wasn't the sickness part because I had gone through times of not having any and I would be sick and it felt like the flu and that kind of stuff. It was just the mental aspect of it, the reason behind the addiction. I wasn't dealing with, so therefore I wasn't going to be able to stop.
Right.
So I went to a place.
Say that again, because I really think that is extremely important for people to understand.
Now I got to try to remember what I said. The using, the reason behind the using is what had to be dealt with,
Right.
not just the using.
Yes.
Because, and this is my opinion, it may or may not be right, but for me, it's what I feel. The addiction is just a symptom of deeper trauma, deeper things that are going on.
People don't get that. But if,
No, they don't.
in all of the recovery stories that I'm going to diverge for a second, but in all the recovery stories that we've been telling this month, not every single one, because some of them will say, I had a great childhood
Right.
and, all of these things. But, there's usually some underlying thing that's feeding this
Some
that
type
we're
of
trying to
trauma.
numb, we're trying to isolate. And then even if that doesn't happen, the shame becomes your trauma.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. And for me, and I've seen it with a lot of people, with the clients that I have, with people I know through the rooms, it a lot of times boils down to some trauma. And trauma is an interesting word because people don't always, there's a lot of emotional trauma out there that people don't realize. And for me, that's what it was. Physically, I had no trauma.
I don't think that I would have believed that before until I witnessed it with my own eyes with people from my own family. And trauma that you have and trauma that I have may not look the same at all, but how it affects us, it doesn't really matter what it was.
Exactly.
It was the worst thing that ever happened to us.
Yes. And it's, people will say, oh, well, I didn't really have any trauma. I had a great childhood. I had this, I had that. But it could be parents fighting. It could be watching, for me, like watching somebody in the family get hit. You're safe. You weren't touched. You were loved, but somebody else in the family
Food
wasn't.
insecurities, bullying.
I
Anything.
think
Mental
there's
health.
Insecurity.
There's
Yeah.
more
Mental health. Oh,
there's
yeah.
more
Yeah.
mental trauma than there is physical trauma, I believe.
And hopefully that gets talked about more because that is a huge, huge thing.
I think it's coming around. I mean, it's taken a long time for the addiction piece to be talked about. And again, there are people who still don't want to accept the fact that it's a disease. You still have people who, don't want to support, people who are judgmental. But I think that we've come to a point where we can't deny it anymore. We really can't.
No, you can't.
We cannot deny it.
It's that old saying, walk a mile in my shoes.
Mm-hmm.
And then you'll see. It's like, when this all really, the addiction started, I'd say when it got out of control, I was 36, 37,
Okay.
I guess maybe.
Did you go to treatment?
What I did was I went to a place that's actually not even around anymore, drove myself and to be evaluated to see what was going on. And I remember it was the hardest thing of my life because I went there not knowing if I was going to be an inpatient and not see my kids for 30 days or I was going to be able to walk out and do outpatient treatment. I had no idea walking in there.
Mm-hmm.
And the thought of leaving my kids for 30 days just broke my heart.
Yeah, that's not uncommon.
I didn't have a
That's why
choice.
some people don't get the help that they need.
But I had to get the help for them because I
Yes.
wasn't a mom that I wanted to be as it was. So I remember.
But this is 10 years now, right? You started when you were 24, now you're 36?
No, it was like abusing them
Yes.
was probably about 2 or 3 years.
Okay.
Quite honestly, I had them from like 24 to 35 and would just use them as needed. Like
Okay.
literally 1 or 2 a week.
Okay.
But then when like 9/11 happened, when 9/11 happened
That's when it went
and the
haywire.
DC shooter happened,
Gotcha.
that's when it started.
Okay.
I found that I could calm my anxiety by taking a pain pill.
Okay.
Had never been a big drinker. In high school I was, but that was always, oh, well, all the jocks drink and that kind. I always just wrote that off. Although there were times I would go out, I would get blackout drunk, and there would be times I would go out with the sole intention of drinking heavy that night.
Right.
But we all did that
Mhm.
once in a while. So I didn't.
It wasn't a thing back then
No,
for people
it
to
was
be
a
concerned
social.
about.
Yeah.
It was a rite of passage. I'm saying that because, when I found out that my daughter was like using marijuana, like at, a young age back, long time ago.
Mhm.
I was kind of like, oh, this is the phase. This is the phase she's going through. You know, like you don't know what to do at the time because, you know, I mean, hey, we all have done things.
Mhm.
We have, you
Mhm.
know, we drink
Right.
alcohol.
I'm not disagreeing with you.
Whatever.
Right.
And you don't like think, well, it's going to lead down that path because I didn't even know that that path
Yeah.
existed
Right.
for her or for anyone.
Right. We all do it.
Yeah.
And like I said, no one talked about the fact that, my father was a functioning alcoholic because he would get up every day. He would go to work. He supported us. And his drug of choice was beer. So he wasn't drinking the hard stuff. Now, my neighbor down the street, her father drank a quart of vodka every night or whatever,
Jeez.
or a fifth, or I don't even know what it was. But, and he had the big belly. He died of cirrhosis of the liver. He was an alcoholic.
Right. So
My
there
dad
was
wasn't.
this comparison that people were doing that
Mhm.
what made you an alcoholic versus what did not make
It wasn't
you an
even
alcoholic.
discussed. I was told before I was the youngest of 5. My sisters are older than I am. When they were little, he was full-fledged, angry, yelling,
Right.
fighting, that kind of stuff, alcoholic. He had mellowed by the time I had come along. That's what I heard. He had
Right.
mellowed. So I honestly did not even realize my father was an alcoholic
Gotcha.
until I got married and moved out. And I'm like, most people don't drink like a 6-pack of beer every night and a case or 2 every weekend.
Right.
That was just,
I was there, unfortunately.
yeah.
I mean, it's
A lot of people
it's
are.
common. And
Yeah.
there are
Mhm.
people who
But he would
function.
sit in a chair, he'd read his book, he'd be quiet, he'd sit there, he'd drink his beer, he'd read his book, and go to
when
bed.
you get to a point where you're having a physical dependency and it might not even be something that you have to do, but it's the
Mhm.
whole, like, what am I trying to say, like the habit of it,
Right.
the routine of
Well,
it.
and I'm
then-
sure, he had his own demons. He was, and we talked about this last time, he was a Marine in World War II at the age of 17 in the South Pacific. So he had his own demons.
yeah, he had his trauma.
Mhm.
Yeah, he had his
Yeah.
own demons.
Mhm.
And
And
Like
as
I s-
kids, we see it. We just think it's normal.
it's normal. This is what Dad did.
Yeah.
So, and that kind of parlays into me currently,
Okay.
because what happened was I went
How long have you been clean from pills?
pills 21 years.
Okay,
And
congratulations.
thank you. I went to treatment. Look, thank God I was able to do outpatient. And I remember sitting there, them doing the whole interviewing and stuff, and me basically crying the entire time. They suggested that I start doing a 12-step program and calling my doctors and letting them know that I was an addict and could not have anything. And 21 years later, I can tell you exactly where I was coming home from there. I was on 95 at 543 coming to my house. So,
Mhm.
and this was at GBMC, so an hour drive. Picked up the phone, called my doctor in Delaware to tell him that they
Don't.
had to mark my chart, that I was an addict and do not give me any. And when I hung up that phone, the grief I felt was as bad as the grief I felt when my dad died.
Wow.
Because you were
I was done.
losing something.
I lost it. Yeah, I told, that was my main connection. And the grief of not being able to get the grief, the fear, everything of not being able to.
But you did it.
I did it because, thank God I'm stubborn. In some ways, it's a good thing. Careful there.
No, but something you said, because a lot of people would think that it would be a relief, but you, like what you said, it was grief.
Oh,
for
that
you.
was my lifeline.
Yeah.
It's how I dealt with life. And I did not have that anymore. So how the hell was I was supposed to do that?
Uh-huh.
How was I supposed to function now that I didn't have
So how did you?
NA?
Okay. And how did that start for you? You said you need to do a 12-step program. So at that point, were you like, what is that? Or
I didn't know what it was. I was at that. I had finally been defeated enough that I was willing to take suggestions. So that same night, I went to my first NA meeting. I laugh about it now because I walked in there, and I grew up in a very judgmental home, and I walk in this room and I can still see it. And the meeting Monday night at Mount Zion, and the meeting is still there. And I walked in And I look around and there's people from all walks of life, but especially back then, people with like tattoos all over their bodies, tattoos on their faces, people missing teeth, the whole 9 yards. I grew
The,
up,
the stereotypical addict at the
Right.
time.
yes,
Yeah.
I grew up in a white middle class family that was very judgmental. And I'm walking in looking at everybody, and it is literally the first time in my life I felt comfortable and I felt at home.
Wow.
Here comes this soccer mom with the minivan, walking in the door that I had on the outside looked like I had nothing in common with these people. And it was the most comfortable place I ever felt.
Once they started talking, or
No, immediately.
As soon as she walked in.
Immediately.
well, you have that. You have.
Well, I have that
inner-
ability, but yeah, I felt it immediately. And I remember because my one friend, who was a sponsee sister back then, teases me about it because when you first go to the meeting, they let people who are new introduce themselves if they want to, just so that people get to know who you are and you can get phone numbers and so forth. And I remember not knowing how it all worked. I raised my hand, said my name, and then proceeded to tell my whole story, crying my eyes out right at the very beginning. And they were great. They let me do it. And at the end of the meeting, a ton of women came up. They were hugging me. They were loving on me, telling me it's okay, that I'm not a piece of shit.
Mm.
And that was a turning point for you.
That's where my journey started. And I did the suggestions. I did the 90 meetings in 90 days. Got a sponsor, started working the steps, started listening, started sharing. Because it's time, and even today to some point, I have trouble being vulnerable, and letting people in.
I think a lot of us do.
Yeah. And a lot like being the daughter of a Marine, that was kind of like, you don't show emotion.
Okay.
So you just don't let them see.
And when you
vulnerable.
stuff your emotions, that's never good.
Yeah, no, it comes out eventually.
Yeah, exactly. For whatever reason, even, when you just have a more emotional child and they, would like to express themselves, often in a very emotional way. And you as the parent are like, you're fine, you're fine, you're fine. You're forcing them to stuff that in and it's going to come out later.
Oh.
So we need to let it come out.
That's why I have a job.
So what we can talk about that as well. What is your job? I mean,
Well, yeah, this is more about the recovery part, but
right.
but it's helped a lot.
Okay.
Is that it's I'm a Reiki Master,
okay,
intuitive counselor.
Gotcha.
So
yes.
I help people energy healing, and we pull out traumas,
Gotcha.
help people remove. We talk about that people store in. There's a really great book. It's called The Body Keeps the Score.
Yes, I have heard of that.
It's an older book. It's been around. But the guy who wrote it, when he was first studying everything, he was dealing with Vietnam veterans first coming home. So to give you an idea how old it is. But it talks about people holding trauma in their body.
Yes.
And it'll come out somehow. Sometimes it comes out physically with people having aches and pains. They don't know where it's coming from. Coming out with people with autoimmune diseases. They're finding more and more fibromyalgia, that kind of stuff.
Yes.
A lot of that is trauma.
I completely agree.
So,
yeah. I mean, not that my opinion matters because it is science.
Yes.
And yes.
So I work with that. I work with helping people remove those traumas so that they can move forward.
So that's not the end of your recovery. Well, you said that's where your journey began, but that wasn't you.
Unfortunately,
didn't go.
It's not.
You didn't just go from there and just.
I would love to say, but I was about to say I would love to say that that's where it started. 21 years later, here I am. But I'm also grateful that that's not where it ended because I learned a lot. I wound up being in the program for probably 8 years or so, and then I started backing away. I started thinking, I started judging people in the rooms, which is all cliches. You hear this stuff like, the first part, let me back up because it was really difficult at first because it's easy to judge yourself out of the room and compare yourself out of the room. Like, I don't belong here, because of whatever reason. And for me, it wasn't that I didn't belong there. It was because I'm better than you. It was, I don't belong here because don't have as many issues as you do, so I don't deserve this chair. Somebody else should have it. Because we're going back 21 years. Back then, they knew nothing about pain pill addiction. So and I actually would have people say, why are you here? You just use pain pills. And because I wasn't shooting dope or I wasn't, doing heroin or coke or whatever else may be out there, drug of choice or whatever. I wasn't destitute. I had a house. On the outside, everything looked perfect. And that's what I meant by the Oprah Winfrey story. Everything looked perfect on the outside.
So we always
Inside, I
say
was,
addiction doesn't have a face.
yeah. Inside, I was dead. Literally dead.
Well, and you were hiding a pretty big secret that
Yeah.
if you had not taken that, made that decision to get help, you don't know where you would have been.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
Because those doctors would eventually have stopped at some point.
Yeah, and then and that's one of the things that always scared me, and I'm very fortunate, is that the, quote, worst drug I ever took was Percocet, knowing it would lead to heroin, which is the
Correct.
next step. And I knew that, and it scared the shit out of me even back then.
Right.
So,
But you didn't go back to that.
no. I was able to, with help of a lot of people, help of a 12-step program, a lot of working the steps helped me see things, see my own personal issues, why I was doing what I was doing, and get the help and see, where things were coming from. And I did that for a good 8 years, I guess. And then I slowly started backing away, and I
Because
stopped.
you thought you were better?
Yeah, and I was just,
Or you thought you didn't need to be there?
I was good, quote,
Okay.
which you'll hear that a lot. I was good. And I was just like, I'm just getting irritated at the meetings. And at the time I had gotten rid of a sponsor and hadn't picked up another one yet. So I was without a sponsor to kind of hold me accountable and just stop going. And for a bit, it was fine.
One thing, we really haven't touched on this, and I if I can,
Sure.
talk to me about the importance of the sponsor.
I was just going to ask that.
Yeah, I feel like
Yeah.
we just use it so loosely, like
Yeah.
when we talk about it, but it's really a very big piece of recovery for a lot of people.
It's huge because the sponsor you have, hopefully, and if not, get another one, in my own opinion, is someone that technically, if you read the literature, a sponsor is someone to go over the steps with.
Okay.
The steps there's 12 steps to help you in your recovery, moving forward, everything from first step, admitting you're powerless over your addiction. And it goes all the way forward. So technically, a sponsor is there to work the steps with you. You answer the questions, they go over them with you.
But I
develop
think
a
it's
relationship.
evolved since
But that's,
beyond that.
that's just quote technically.
Okay.
But what should happen is you form a relationship. I know I form a relationship with someone who knows you inside and out. They know your deepest, darkest secrets, because when some of those, like the fourth step is listing, we take a personal inventory. So you're listing all your good and your bad.
And you're sharing it with
And
this
then you have to
person.
share it with somebody. That's probably the scariest step for a lot of people. And because you're literally telling your life, it's really it's a very freeing step, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But it's scary when people do it for the first time. I've done it a few times, but it's actually, I'm on it again now. But you list your resentments, but then you list the things you've done, things you're ashamed of, everything. So it's out there.
Right.
And technically it's things you've already done. So it's not anything new that you don't know about. You're just bringing it to light. And then you share it with someone else to help remove it. And just
there's
kinda
no
clear it.
shame because they're there for you in
Yeah.
this
Yeah, and there's
season.
no judgment.
Right.
There's absolutely no judgment. And what the really wild part is, from my experience, and a lot of people have said this, when you may have something that happened to you that's you think is completely unique. There's no way in the world anybody else has gone over this or has had this happen to them or that did something. I had something like that, and I told my sponsor, and she's like, "Oh, I did that too." It's like, no. So it's like they could relate. It's like
Right.
it's
Yeah.
like
It's the
your
real-
higher power can give you whatever you want to call your higher power, God, the universe, whatever, the rooms, kind of puts you with the right person to help understand that.
Okay.
And so the sponsor's a person to lean on, so that when you're feeling your feelings, which is what, for me, the disease of addiction is a disease of the feelings.
Okay.
And when you're having those feelings and you don't know what to do with them, you don't know where to put them. You can call your sponsor and you can say, hey, I'm feeling off, or I'm feeling this, and they can walk you through because they've already worked the steps and they have the experience and they can help you see things clear.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for clarifying. Because, I mean, sometimes we talk about things and we just assume our listeners know what we're talking about. Especially this, I really love everything that you're saying because I feel like it's giving a true picture of what the program can do for people. Because I know a lot of people sometimes are judgmental about that. They don't want to do that. Not me. Right. Whatever it is. Yeah. But obviously I've seen the results of it. Yeah. And it's a beautiful thing if you do it right.
Yeah, it is. And it's not easy. I mean, you'll hear a phrase a lot that says it's a simple program for complicated people.
Okay. I like that.
And it's very true because we as addicts try to
do this, but we have to dive deep. Right.
Oh, yeah. We have to complicate it as much as we possibly can. It's like, do this. Okay. Yeah. Well, let me try this first. That kind of stuff. And it's the fact that and this is the interesting thing is you'll meet people and again, not everyone does 12-step programs. And nowadays there's a whole lot different, more programs, I should say. There's some for like all paths, which is, and there's there's Christian recovery. There's all kinds of recovery programs.
And recovery can mean a lot of things to a lot of people. And we support that for them because that's no different than maintenance.
Yes.
That's no different than, okay, I'm not using my drug of choice, but I am using medical marijuana. I'm not promoting any of this. Like I'm just saying when you said all paths, I wanted to make it very clear that all paths means a lot of different things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's one great thing about Rage is that you guys don't judge and that you've always been there for people and that you have resources for anyone who needs help.
Yes.
And that's huge for
right. Well, because what is the saying? You know it. Meet them where they're at. So you know when someone comes to you, I mean, Rachel's really great at this. You're starting from here. We don't really care about there. We're starting from here.
So I left for a number of years. Was quote clean for a while, as far as from pills or anything, or alcohol even. And then one day I picked up a glass. I was at a steakhouse, picked up a glass of wine because thought I could, and that went on for a while again, just every once in a while, no big deal, that kind of stuff. Looking back, it's like, yeah, I wasn't drinking a lot, but I was spending money. My addiction was acting out in different ways, and that's the thing with addiction that a lot of people don't realize. It's not necessarily just drugs and alcohol. It can be shopping. It can be gambling. It can be sex. It can be porn.
Control. It could be work.
Tobacco.
Yeah. Yeah. It could be people who are working. They have to work 14, 15 hours a day because they just have to do it. They have to get it done and they don't feel okay, this just came to me. It's any way to get outside of yourself.
Okay.
In my opinion.
Okay.
Obviously, I'm not an expert, but for me, it's like it's any way to get outside yourself. And looking back.
Where did the wine take you from there?
It went from a glass of wine here and there to me drinking a bottle a night.
A night?
A night.
Wow.
Every night?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow.
It would just be a small bottle. That's where I started. And then
I think they're all the same.
Oh, no, there's big bottles and there's small
bottles.
Well,
there is. Obviously, I know that, but.
Oh, no, because then it went to the big bottles.
Oh, wow.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. So
okay, so how is your family seeing this?
It killed them. It really just it hurt them, and it was like I said, my husband, God love him, and he's been amazing through all this journey. But he wouldn't really say anything. He's non-confrontational. It was more of my son who said stuff and would try to get me to stop. It was my daughter ultimately that she was a senior in high school. And what happened was she was my youngest. I was fortunate to be able to be mainly a stay-at-home mom. I worked, but direct sales, that kind of stuff. But my main focus was raising my kids. She was getting ready to go off to college. I was all up in my head about not being a mom anymore. you're always a mom, but like that was not going to be my main focus.
Empty nest
Yeah, it
type
was like,
of thing.
Well, my son was still home, but yeah, I wasn't needed anymore. That's the words right there. I was not needed.
That's heartbreaking too.
Yeah, and I did not know what to do with myself. And it was grief. I was grieving the loss of having my kids little. And again, it all goes with the addiction and the mental thinking and all that kind of stuff. So I was drinking to forget. And it got to the point where my daughter basically pulled me aside one night and said to me, if you don't get help and if you don't start going back to meetings again, you're not coming to my graduation.
Wow.
Yeah. And God love her. Actually, she's coming home today. So she lives in Arizona now. I'll see her for a week. I can't wait. But yes, I can still remember that conversation.
And that hit you hard.
Real hard. That just got me right in the heart. It just got me right where I needed to be hit. Because before that, she wasn't saying a whole lot. My son was the one who would speak up. And next day, I went to a meeting on a Tuesday night. That was 8-9 years ago. And that's been my home group ever since. That's when I met Rachel.
Okay.
She was just coming into the rooms when I was coming back. Threw myself into it, 90 and 90, got a sponsor, did the whole...
Did you go to treatment?
No.
Okay.
Treatment has not been a part of my story. It is for a lot of people, and it's nothing wrong with that at all.
I was just curious.
I've never gone away to treatment. I've been able to, with the steps and with a sponsor and so forth.
Now, did you need to detox at that time? I'm curious.
No.
Okay.
No. Because I was drinking a lot, but it was a point, I had many mornings where I had my head over that porcelain god, praying that I would stop throwing up because of just having so much alcohol in my system.
Right.
But no, I was physically I was fine.
Okay.
Your
Mine was
treatment
mental.
hearing your daughter in the back of your head.
Yeah, my treatment was mentally. I needed help. I needed to figure out what was going on and why I was turning to alcohol to not feel.
Right.
Because that was the big thing, is to not feel. I did not want to feel. I was extremely unhappy. I was sad. I was depressed. Fill in the blank. And alcohol took care of that for me, I thought.
Did we ever explore therapy or anything like that? And I know now you, in your profession, you probably are very in tune with your feelings and feelings of other people. But
the interesting thing is, when I had my son, I had gotten postpartum depression. That was 30, oh my goodness, almost 31 years ago. And I had gotten postpartum depression, which that wasn't talked about back then either.
Right.
We didn't talk about any of that kind of stuff. So I had been in therapy for years for that.
Okay.
For years. And it had helped. But full disclosure, I got more help from working the 12 steps of NA than I did from the thousands of dollars I spent in therapy.
Okay.
Wow.
I learned more about myself. I learned more, which is why, I'm still in NA. I still belong to NA, even though alcohol has become has become my main focus, my main problem. Alcohol is a drug, but I choose to stay in the NA side.
What's the difference? I mean, in all honesty, is there a difference? Is it just basically a choice and small tweaks
between the programs?
Yeah.
Main difference, they're the same steps.
Okay.
The whole program was started by someone with an alcohol problem.
Bill W?
Yeah.
Okay.
And he wrote the 12 steps. For me, what I have found to be the difference, and some people may disagree, but with AA, it's very God-based.
Okay.
And it's also, they talk about the 12 steps. They only physically write answers to questions for, I think, 2 of them, maybe 3. The rest are just talked about.
Okay.
Where with NA, it's spiritual based, but not God based. And by that, I mean your higher power. What you'll hear is some of the literature will mention God, but by that, they mean higher power, whatever you choose to call your higher power. Some people call it the rooms. A higher power can be whoever you want it to be.
Right.
It's basically a higher power is something greater than you that can help keep you from using.
Okay.
Some people have a God. Some people, and a lot of people have issues. Addicts have issues when they first come in the room with the word God.
And picking your higher power.
Yeah, because they had, like, I grew up Catholic. My God was punishing.
Right.
He's not now, but he was. So some people grew up with no idea what a God is.
Mm-hmm.
So the literature says higher power, something greater than you are. And that could be the rooms. It could be your sponsor. It could be, there's one woman who has 40 some years clean. When she first started, her higher power was her chickens.
Okay.
And I'll never forget the story. She would go outside and talk to her chickens. Whenever she was having trouble. It got her through.
It got her through. I know nature is very healing for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Mother Nature and, lots of stuff.
Mhm.
But yeah, so there is no one size fits all higher power.
So with NA, you have a quote higher power, but then they also write every single step. Like step 1 has 69 questions
Whoa.
to answer. Yeah, it's a workbook. I should have brought it with me. It's 69 questions, and some of the questions repeat themselves in different ways so that you're answering the same question again.
It really gets you
But
thinking.
it gets you thinking.
And that's how journaling is. So it kind of gets your mind and you're putting it down on paper and you're evaluating yourself.
And you have a sponsor who evaluates you with you.
So what qualifies you to be a sponsor? That there is no...
Well, there's no technical qualifications. See, I'm old school in the sense that when I first started coming around, the sponsor had to have worked all 12 steps before they could sponsor anybody. And so typically you have some time under your belt. And that's the difference where with AA, you can do all 12 steps in 6 months.
Okay.
Because you're talking about them.
Right.
With NA, it takes years because of the fact that it's, like I said, first step is, I think, 69 questions. And then you have to go over it with your sponsor and you dive into your answers to those questions. What am I powerless over? And then you list, that's like one of the first questions.
I mean, I don't struggle like with that, but I have always said that I would like to do the step work.
I think everybody should do the step work.
I do too.
I really, and I have said that for years. It
transforms. It does. Whatever he did to make that happen, he dug deep.
Mm-hmm.
And it applies to everyone.
I have said that for years, that every person should work the 12 steps.
I agree.
I have taken the book.
I haven't yet, but I aspire to do that. Yes.
It's just because it makes you look at things. And then you have, like I said, the 4th step is taking a personal inventory. So you look at your life and you look at things. You look at one of the first questions that ask in the 4th step is, who do you hold resentments against and why?
Mm-hmm.
So you can really dig into that and say, well, should I have that resentments? Should I have this?
Everyone does.
Yeah.
About something.
But
does it stem back to your parents?
Is it helping you?
Right.
And just having a conversation with my sponsor the other day because of things that are going on in my life right now, her comment to me was, resentments have no room in your recovery. And it's very true. Because resentments lead to anger, which leads to acting out.
And it's living in the past as well.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And I noticed that the recovery, and I don't know if this is part of the steps, but the gratitude, replacing resentment with gratitude and being appreciative for the life that you have now today. And there's a lot of people who have a lot of stuff and they don't have the gratitude in their life that they need.
That's huge. Gratitude's huge. It's, one of the sayings, and people call it cliches, is that a grateful addict will never use. There's actually a home group called the Gratitude Group. That was my first home group when I first started 21 years ago. It's still around. But it's all about being grateful. And I can't tell you how many times over the years, either I've told sponsees or my sponsors told me when I'm upset or so forth, just go ahead and write a gratitude list.
Well, we've learned a lot about the program today. And I think it's important because we've been talking to people about their stories over the past, we started recording in February for this National Recovery Month, and we've had some amazing stories. Well, we didn't start recording, but we started we started planning in February to find these people, and it evolved because we wanted stories that would be powerful, and we never really touched on this. So this is actually very eye-opening for our audiences to hear, kind of like inside the program and what those steps actually do that transform? Because most of the time it's like, oh, I went to treatment and then I did this and then now I'm good. But what is that sponsor? What do those steps do? And how can we dive down to like let people understand that, yeah, it might be scary, but it's part of the process.
Oh, it's hard. It's really hard to do, to be vulnerable and to let someone in, let people in, but it literally will save your life. And I know for just myself, when they talk a lot about self-will and doing God's will, higher power, if you will, and getting rid of your self-will and letting God decide for you. And that's kind of where I am right now with things because of having control. I started this process of addiction as far as using pills because I didn't have control. I relapsed when my daughter was going away to college because I had no control. I unfortunately relapsed again about 3 years ago with alcohol because even though alcohol wasn't part of my story, I relapsed with the alcohol again because even though I relapsed with alcohol and that's why I came back again, my brain was still not computing that I'm an alcoholic.
Okay.
And this is probably important to say, is that it literally was not until 5 months ago, literally, that I was able to make the statement out loud that I'm an alcoholic.
Wow.
Even though alcohol is a drug. And
what changed for you to make you be able to say that?
I, over the past 3 years, have only been able to get so many months clean at a time because I would drink.
And you would think that that wasn't the problem.
Oh, I knew it was. I just would like, okay, well, I'm going to drink tonight. I'll go to my meeting tomorrow and I'll pick up a 1-day key tag or I wouldn't get one. I wouldn't tell anybody. And so it wasn't like I would go on a bender and be going for weeks. I would drink at home and hide it, try to hide it. It got to the point where it wasn't working anymore. We all think addicts think they're smarter than they are when they get to that point. Everybody knows what's going on. And with my new sponsor that I had, we started working the steps. And it's so crazy because it's such a tiny little piece of things.
Mm-hmm.
I could not admit I was an alcoholic because of the impression it gave from when I was young. Being young, being called an alcoholic, realizing that my dad was an alcoholic was a bad thing. And it was negative. And I could say I'm a drug addict with no problem. Yeah, I'm a drug addict in recovery. I'm an addict in recovery.
Mm-hmm.
I could say that with no problem. And my sponsor actually laughed at me and said, Karen, you realize it's much more socially acceptable to be an alcoholic than it is to be a drug addict.
I guess it's really all in who you talk to.
Because it really is. Not in my house.
Right.
Well, even when I first got help for the drug addiction, my mother would look at me and say, you're not an addict. I'm like, yeah, Mom, I am. No, you're not. You're not down living on the streets. You're not homeless. You're not shooting drugs in your arms.
Right.
Yeah.
That image that everybody had.
Yeah, that image people had.
Right.
Yeah, it doesn't look like that anymore.
No, it doesn't.
But it's so it was the fact of me finally, after 60 years of my life, admitting that I'm an alcoholic. And I had to literally go to meetings and call myself that on a regular basis in front of people. This is the first time in public that I have said that word.
How do you feel?
Empowered.
Okay. Well,
because I'm fighting my disease. I'm saying, you know what? No, I have an issue. There's no shame in that.
Right.
It's something that, I can't drink. I can't have just one because if I have one, maybe I could today. But then that's going to get things started in my head. It's going to get that disease active again. And that's kind of what happened was 3 years ago, I had surgery and I was given pain pills. And I was not super active in my program.
Right.
The program helps. I took care of my father-in-law for 7 months while he was in hospice at my house. I took care of him. I watched him die. 4 months later, my mom gets sick, goes into hospice and dies 4 weeks later.
Aww.
I stayed clean through all that.
Because you were working
I was working the program. And I was going to meetings and I was sharing where I was.
That's powerful, yeah.
Straight up.
Mm-hmm.
3 years ago, I had surgery, had to have pain pills, which I took as needed. I didn't, abuse them or any of that kind of stuff. But it woke my disease up. So then when I had started having emotional or issues with like family members and some painful issues happening, mentally, emotionally tough, I turned to alcohol again. And over the past 3 years, it has taken me time to get any time together. And
where are you right now?
probably by the time this airs, 6 months.
Okay.
And at first I was real embarrassed because I had time. I had so many years. Like, I came back when Rachel came back. So I should have this much time. Excuse my French, but it's bullshit because I have today.
Right.
And that's something that a whole lot of people can't say they have. There's a lot of people who, shame will keep them out of the rooms.
Well, yes. And I'm so glad that you're saying all of this. And because, people do have these relapses and it gets harder and harder for them as they get older. It becomes more concerning. And then you have your chronic relapsers, or you have someone who is involved in a relationship where they have someone that's using and they're using as well. So there's so many different components to it. So if you could just talk to us a little bit about I guess that whole relapse process, because we know that it's still happening out there. It's happening in my family. It's happening, to you. It's happening to people in the community. Like, how can we make people understand that this is a disease?
Good question.
That's a hard one.
That's a hard one. But I'm thinking it through, and it goes back to my own personal opinion is a disease of the feelings and a disease of the trauma, and having to face that trauma, figure out what the trauma is, getting rid of the trauma or dealing with it however you need to, and then using all the resources that are out there to help you face what's going on.
Okay.
Because I know, just like I said, for me, it's a matter of not wanting to feel. And I know I have a personal situation right now that I will try to make it through without crying. One of my sponsees that I had had for years, and when she first got clean, I was her sponsor, and we were extremely, extremely close. She called me mom.
Oh.
She's like another daughter to me. And she was doing great for a long time, got involved in a relationship, took her will back, started using, got clean again, and just couldn't stay clean, and had issues that she just couldn't deal with. And she wound up, it was just the drinking. And then she tried really hard not to keep drinking, but she was not using all the resources she could. And then she decided to take her will back and decided that she had been through a lot of trauma recently, a lot of horrific things had happened in her life. And instead of using the resources of the rooms or other resources that she had, she decided not to feel. Partly because of the relationship she was in, because of her partner was using, so that he didn't have to feel. And so she chose to do the same thing. She's now laying in the hospital on a ventilator, waiting to have her organs donated tomorrow.
I'm so sorry. And this is happening in not only our community, but everywhere.
And it's heartbreaking, obviously. What's really difficult, and if any, I can sit here and I can say all kinds of stuff, but they had the resources to test the drugs they were using. They had the test strips because they have all this stuff. Now, there's organizations out there. I'm not going to give out names because I don't know.
Harm reduction. We'll just call it harm reduction.
There's harm reduction where they will give you clean needles. They will give you Narcan.
They will give you fentanyl test strips.
Fentanyl and the other one, I forget the name of it. Xylazine. They give you test strips to test. They had all of those resources with them.
And it still happens.
And it still happens because they don't test it. And that's where the disease is so strong that people, we call them normies, don't understand. It's like, how could you do that? How could you? I know people who have tested it. It's come up positive for fentanyl and they do it anyway because they need it so
Sitting
bad.
right in front of them, you know.
And their desire, their need is so strong that there is no conscious thought of this may kill me.
Right.
Or you have the ones who are so far gone in their addiction, they hope it does.
Yeah. Wow. This has been really powerful. It has. And I really thank you for sharing because this is hard stuff. This is really hard stuff. It's hard stuff to go through. It's hard stuff to watch. And if you don't have someone that you love that's going through it, you just don't understand.
And even if you do, I got to add that. They don't always understand either. My husband, like I said, God bless him, and he's amazing. He's been in my life for 40-some years. What I'm going through now with my sponsee, he doesn't understand. He tries. But the thought of she knew going back into that relationship, using it again could possibly kill her. And have her lose her family, not be there for her son, etc., etc. His brain doesn't compute how someone could make that choice because he's not an addict.
Right. Well, I mean, I mean, I know from seeing it like happening over and over, you know, in my life.
You're right in the trenches.
And we see these women who you're like, just keep doing what you're supposed to do. And they just get in their head that we're leaving today. And that's just all there is to it. And, you know, you can't chase them. And you can't.
And that's the hardest part.
Yeah, it is hard. It is hard. But I also want to throw out there, so some of the things that we've been talking about at the end are real. You know, this fentanyl. There are teenagers in schools around in our county and beyond that are using pills that are laced with fentanyl.
Everything
and
is
they
now.
are dying. They may not be even considered an addict. They are in that experimental phase in their life. They go out and they do this because they're at a party or they're somewhere and they're dying. So it's not something that we're not talking about this because, you know, we're trying to, you know,
it's the hot topic.
Yeah, something. It's happening.
Raising awareness.
I can interject, my sponsor lost her grandson to this disease, who was not an addict, never used, was away at boot camp, had a really hard workout or whatever. His friend said to him, hey, I can get us some pain pills to help. You know, it's boot camp, right? They both took one pill. It happened to be laced with fentanyl. They both died. 18 years old.
Yep.
Only takes one.
And he was not an addict. He had his life ahead of him. He didn't know.
No. Yeah.
So it's awareness.
It is.
And there's everything. And the problem is now everything is freaking laced with this stuff, including weed. People think, oh, well, you know, weed's okay. I can do that. If you're going to, I'm not encouraging it. I'm not saying to do it. But if you're going to do it, get it from a dispensary.
I agree. Yes.
Again, with the harm.
Don't take it from somebody that got it from a dispensary.
Again, with the harm reduction.
Yeah, you have to be.
They are finding it. Every single thing, including weed, is laced with fentanyl or all this other stuff's out there.
Even the freaking gummies are.
Yeah. If you're going to get it, go to the freaking dispensary.
Right. Yeah. Wow. You know, this is powerful. And I thank you very much for sharing your story. And we're hoping that, you know, the parents that are listening will understand that, you know, it's not, okay, how am I going to say this? We're talking about people that have had the resiliency of going through their addiction and finding recovery on the other side. But there's a whole nother piece that we haven't even touched on, Rich, that we should probably dive into a little bit. But it is those 18-year-olds, high school students who are doing this for the first time and they're done. Yeah. They're just done. And we're not talking about it enough.
And the thing is, it's not even just the 18-year-olds. It's even,
12.
I didn't have an issue too. I was like, well, number one,
Oh,
38.
yeah.
But it's
Yeah,
even
but there are
you know,
middle schoolers
there are
that
middle
are
schoolers that are, it's okay. It's like, it's very cool and it's fine to be doing weed. Like when we were in grade school, or not grade school, where am I coming? I never did that. But
high school.
high school, it was, drinking. You go out and drink on the weekends, you party on the weekends. It wasn't a big deal. Now they're finding that the kids aren't drinking. They're doing weed.
Or they're taking pills.
Or they're taking pills.
Yeah.
And weed they will say, is not a gateway drug. I know several people who will tell you different, who are in the rooms, who started with weed. And again, the weed, it's
Even alcohol.
it's all about, to me, why are you doing it? Are you, maybe you first do it because
You
your
just wanna
friends are
try
doing
it.
it. You want to
Yeah.
try it. Your friends are doing it. No, right? But that's one of the things, and I know you know this better than I do, as far as the history and the background and the addiction and the disease of it, is that some of us are just wired differently.
Well, I was talking to a friend. She was in one of our recovery houses. She was a house manager. I love her dearly. And she said, I'm the one in my family that got the gene.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't know who, it's like that, the bullet
Relay
in the
wheel, yeah.
chamber.
Yeah.
I hate to say it, but you just do not know who it's
I
going
have
to
5
affect.
siblings.
And you're the only one.
I'm the only one.
Wow.
Well, thank you. We
You're
appreciate
welcome.
you.
I appreciate being here. I appreciate you and everything you've done for this community.
Thank you.
You've taken something extremely tragic and made something good out of it.
We're trying.
You are doing. It's very obvious, and I see it. I see it with the people coming in, and the women in the rooms, and the women in your houses. I see the direct impact you make on these people.
I think that, our mission has changed. Originally Rage Against Addiction was to provide awareness and support to anyone that struggled from drug and or alcohol abuse, including the families, because I was the family and I was just trying to figure out how to provide better resources. And now we have kind of shifted because we have the sober living houses for women, and we've kind of fell into this dedicated to women's recovery. And in the extension of that, which makes me really excited, is that we truly believe that healing begins with safe housing.
100%.
It's that structure, it's that protected environment, and that networking. So, it's possible.
That's what I hear in the rooms. It's the fact that they have a structure. A lot of the people coming in haven't had, if they ever had a structure at all, have not had it for years because their whole life revolved around
chaos, right?
And chaos. So to come into one of your houses, have that security, have that safety, and they're nice houses.
And accountability.
Let's be real, they're nice houses.
Yeah,
they are. And they're very. I've been in them before, and having the accountability, you have to go to so many meetings or whatever. You have to do this. You have
to do your chores.
You have all that stuff.
You have to pay rent. You have to pay rent.
You have to pay rent. So you have to get a job to pay the rent. You have to. And I've heard people leaving meetings. Oh, I got to get home. I've got to do chores.
I got a curfew.
Or I got to take the trash down. It's like, and then they'll laugh about it. They said, thank God I have to take the trash down tonight.
Aww.
Because a year or two ago, I was the trash.
Right. Oh,
I have heard that comment.
Wow. Yes. Wow. Well, on that note, we thank you so much, and we appreciate you. And she's wearing her Rage Gear shirt. Yay. Thank you for your support.
Always. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
Wendy, I understand that Rage Against Addiction is doing something very important, a monthly donor program. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Absolutely. We are hoping to get our supporters to join us in providing a monthly donation. It can be $5 or it can be more. Whatever you can afford really allows us to help plan and increase our fundraising efforts.
Well, why should people become a monthly donor? What are they doing to help?
Their monthly contributions let us plan for long-term projects and respond quickly when urgent needs arise. And I'll give you an example.
Mm-hmm.
We had the need for a new mattress.
Right.
And we've also had urgent needs for refrigerators and washing machines and all of that kind of stuff that comes up. So they tend to need to be replaced, and our women deserve to have the things that they need.
So with the monthly donor program, technically anybody can do it for any amount, and because Rage Against Addiction always needs something.
And
Yes.
I've known you for years now, and there's times you've told me you guys needed furniture, you need clothes, and also you're not getting the grants that you used to or the contributions that you used to. So this monthly donor program will definitely help a lot.
Yes.
So if somebody becomes a monthly donor, is there anything that they're getting in return? Besides, of course, helping those that need it. I know you guys have an excellent newsletter. Would they automatically be subscribed to
we'll
that?
subscribe you to our newsletter so you'll know what's going on. You can kind of track our progress, hear success stories, know the data and like how many women we serve each year, and just be a part of something bigger.
So with this too, I guess they're also going to be, because of the newsletter, they're going to be one of the first ones to find out about events coming up like the Memory Walk and Run, the Basket Bingo, and any other future events that you're doing, the podcast that you do.
Yes.
So they're going to be tied in right away.
Yes.
All right. So how can they become a monthly donor?
You can go to our website, and that is rageagainstaddiction.org, and go to our donate button. And on there, you will have the option to become a monthly donor, and you can put in any amount that you want. Your commitment, big or small, empowers our mission and changes lives every single day. Visit us at rageagainstaddiction.org to become a reoccurring donor and join us in making a lasting impact. Thank you for your compassion, generosity, and belief in a brighter future. Together, we can make a difference. Join us today.